No more senior moments. I am prepared. I'll know my song well before I start singing. I wish I could have written like that. I wish I wrote that. I remember Stephen Stills. Yeah, he was. Thought it was a program about Dylan, and he was talking about Dylan's lyric in Tabourine to take the tangerine. No, not tangerine sky. Oh, the diamond. To dance beneath the diamond sky with one hand waving free. Stephen Stills said, "Damn, wish I would have written that." So, yeah. So, not too much exposure. A very big interest. Yes. Okay. So, and I started hearing about LSD too. Oh, and I was even more interested in LSD because of the visual psychedelic aspects. And Timothy Leary, he seemed like a respected person, and he was basically, endorsing this. So I was sort of far removed here, and I didn't know anybody that had any, but I had one friend who had experienced it, and he just talked that he was sitting there and was just getting all these visuals. And anyway, I didn't come until later in my life. But anyway, when I went back home and stayed with my parents for the summer, my father is completely oblivious to drugs, but my mother is just, she's very tuned in. And anyway, I had a little stash. In fact, I had it was a little sample bottle. In fact, I remember it was Kelly, who in the Kelly hotels brought out this new suntan oil called Tanya, Tanya. I'm not sure about the A in there. Anyway, they gave away these little sample ounce bottles, not ounce, but very small bottle, brown bottle, really nice. And that's what I'd carry my grass in, and I would just hold the cap of my teeth and just sprinkle a little on and put it back in there. And so I was a real Marlboro man there. And what I would do, I would go in the back bathroom, close the door, open the window. I don't think there was a fan because they had a outside window, and just smoke a joint. And I remember when my mother first caught me. God, I'm up to 41 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I got all the time in the world. Yeah. And she confronted me with it, and we were going to the SWAT meet at the La Mirada Drive-In. And that's actually when I bought a whole stash of these. I bought all of them. I still have quite a few left. They were 25 cents each. Notice this is before the Surgeon General had the stamp on there. In fact, I thought I saw a date on here. No, just the manufacturers. Yeah, and anyway. Yeah, so then she knew, and she had a lifelong concern about me for this, because this was, I guess, just the most wrong thing anybody could do. And I actually, didn't see harm in it as others, because I didn't notice any addictive qualities. I only noticed upside. Oh, there was another nice time back in Hawaii. We were up, we did hiking in the mountains, smoked, and could actually look out and see all of like Pearl Harbor and everything. It was another nice. We were going to rappel with a rope, but I think we were smart enough after smoking that we didn't. I hope I can get back on track. Yeah, my mother just confronted me, so that was another moment in my life, another day in the life. And the Beatles too here, especially when Sgt. Pepper came out. I mean, I was really connected there, and especially George Harrison, some of his tunes. So I still really started getting into music, and this is, I think, too, where this lifelong connection between not so much the sex part, but drug, sex, and rock and roll. So yeah, my father completely oblivious to this. So when I had come back home too, I forget the exact chronological sequence here, but Oh yeah, no, I got to go back here. I see. Yes. So yeah, okay, yeah. I had my notes right. I'm just not following my directions. Yeah. So next thing is, well, I had an issue with the Air Force. I got into the reserves. I went through basic training, and that was 6 weeks, and then that was at Shepherd, Lackland. Lackland. Then I went to Shepherd, which is Wichita Falls, and that's where I had technical training. And I was a good soldier, good student, but I was getting very bored. And I had that little bottle of Tanya, and I wrote my sister and asked her to send it to me. One of the most stupid things I probably ever did. And anyway, she did send it to me in a box of fudge, and so I smoked indiscreetly. I remember going down, walking, and I could do it very publicly, because everything was public here. And the thing I hated most about the service was, especially when you're in tech school and basic training, you only have a finite number of things that you can do, and you can only do them in certain ways, and certain things are frowned on and other things aren't. But your rank is right on your sleeve. I remember, when you're looking for girls, most of them would say, well, I don't go out with anybody who's below, second lieutenant, so I only go out with officers. And not being an officer here, then go roller skating, and if you went drinking, it was 3.2 beer. So they made it cheap, and the movies were cheap, but it was really a pretty boring life. And anyway, so I would smoke, and it was sort of my rebellious nature here for having to fulfill my military commitment. It turned out to be very good, though, because I was, on flying status and had a lot of benefits. But I won't go off in that direction. But yeah, so that was another experience, yeah. But after technical training, we went home, and then I was at March Air Force Base, and we had C-124, these old prop airplanes. So they just teach you generalized. They don't teach you for a specific plane and technical training. When you come back to your base, then you have to have training for your specific airplane. And that training was taking place up at McChord, which was up in Washington. So myself and the 3 others had to go up to McChord for a 2-week training about the C-124. And I, of course, brought my little bottle of Tanya. I refilled it. So this was a very... I wish I would have kept that bottle. That would have been a real memory. But anyway, I took it with me stupidly, and we flew up commercially, if I'm correct, yes. And we all stayed in a motel just off base together. And I remember I smoked in the bathroom with the window open. And I think after taking a shower. And, I shaved. So I was in there quite a while. And this other guy, Burgess, he was a Mormon, I might say, and he's very tuned in. I mean, he was extreme, I guess in good ways. But anyway, as soon as I opened the door and came out, he goes, "What's the fire?" I guess he's too stupid not even to know what marijuana smells like. So anyway, I tell him, no, I just have a cigarette in it. Oh, okay. So that's the thing. But anyway, going back, of course, San Francisco Haight-Ashbury was just catching on. And I had a very strong draw, and I've never taken LSD, so I had a very strong draw to go there. So we booked our own commercial flights. I booked my return flight. So it had a overnight in San Francisco. So, on purpose. So I'd have a day, a night in San Francisco. So anyway, going back then, I took a bus in, and I must have, and went to Haight-Ashbury, and it was a pretty cool place at the time. I don't think it had been, too heavily overrun at the time. My memories are positive. A lot of head shops and a lot of weird people, but didn't see any, people that looked disturbed or heavily drugged. And anyway, I was in a head shop, and there was this kid. He must have been 12 years old, and I wasn't necessarily watching him, but he took a tablet and popped it. And, I saw it. And so I walked over to him and I said, if you have any more of those, I will buy them from you. And so, yeah, he sold them to me. I don't remember what the price was. I believe I got 3, if I'm correct. 2 or 3. At least 2, maybe 3. Anyway, yeah, so here I'd scored here. And I felt certain because, you're always concerned about what you get. On marijuana, you can usually tell, but on other stuff, you don't know. But since I saw him take it, and he didn't do it on purpose, I don't think he purposely did it in front of me. He may have, but anyway, it was a genuine stuff. Come to find out. So anyway, I decided, well, gee, what should I do here? And the day was starting to end, and for some reason I didn't think. Oh, I think I wanted to go to the Avalon Ballroom. That was up near Market Street. So anyway, I decided to go up to it was at Union Square, and I picked up the. I don't remember exactly when I dropped the first one, but I took one, and basically I then took the trolley from Union Square. It goes up past the Mark Hoppins, up to the top, then goes down the other side, and then ends at the Fisherman's Wharf and Ghirardelli's there. So anyway, I took it before I got on, and then I went all around the Fisherman's Wharf area. I may have had something to eat, and I was feeling nothing. So I was starting to think, well, I think maybe I was set up. So time to take the other one. So I took the other one. And, time went on, and it wasn't until I remember taking the trolley, coming back up the hill, and it was a very visual and very strong feeling. And it was a very positive kind of, just an exuberance coming, outside of me. So it was so I guess I had a double dose there. I don't know how much it was, but I certainly had a strong hit, and I was starting to hallucinate, meaning you would see something, but you would read designs into it, much as the calligraphy was done in the 60s. And the, I can't remember where in the experience, or this might have been, no, this was a later experience. I was, and let me jump ahead, to that, an experience in a head shop where they had a separate black light room. And not only was it a black light, but it was a strobing black light. And they had all these neon electric posters. So the, neon colors, they just were so visual. And I was there, and a guy was obviously high, a very youthful, young, strong guy, and he had some kind of a pole or something. And he was like dancing to the music and pointing with a strobe light that was just like, beyond belief. Anyway, back to the trolley car, cable car. So finally came down the other side, and I was just tripping. I was just hallucinating. And I was really just totally, it was like holding an electric cable. And lo and behold, there was a movie being made outdoors there in front of a hotel with all of these arc lamps going. And they had a hippie car there with a bunch of hippie extras. And so, of course, I went down there and watched them set up for the shot, and it was Come to find out, it was Julie Christie. It was very hot. This was just after Dr. Zhivago. And George, again, he was played Patent. Anyway, that guy. And it was Petunia, I believe the name of the movie. I didn't know anything about it. But anyway, they were sitting there drinking coffee. And they had these arc lamps on this hippie car. And it was all, this neon electric. Anyway, that was quite visual. But then what happened, some guy started talking to me there and was very friendly. And I come to find out very quickly that he was homosexual, trying to seduce me. And so, when I asked him if he were, I said, "Are you a queer?" And he says, "Well, that's a very harsh word." So, and another bad experience I had, I was eating at a counter in San Francisco, and some guy next to me, like this. So, anyway, I guess it's a heavily populated area. So, that was the end of the good part. I decided I should get hightail, because I couldn't think of what I should do next. I don't know whether the Avon, I think the Avon was on a later trip. So anyway, I went back, I caught a bus and went back and spent the night in the airport and came down from that. And so that was my first LSD experience, and I would say it was very positive. Yeah. So on to my list here. I got to follow my list now. Okay. Yeah. So I'm really turned on by this, but I couldn't really find, LSD, and I wasn't willing to go out and look for it, especially through on the street. So, and I don't remember where I got my marijuana, but anyway, what I decided to do. There was a good job through my sister's husband, Derek, with a hotshot computerized reservation system. But the job wasn't quite available yet, so I had to wait like about 6 months before it would be available. And with the Air Force, I had got qualified. And actually, ironically, we would fly, called Hickam turnarounds, we would fly there to Hawaii, Hickam Air Force Base, which was right next to the Honolulu airport, and fly there on Saturday, stay overnight on Saturday, and have, I forget how long it was, free, and then fly back. And so these were cargo missions that we would do to, fulfill our mission of, that's what we did, was we were cargo airplanes. I was the load master in charge of the cargo, and very rarely when we had passengers. So anyway, that really turned out to be a good thing, and being on this flying status, we got some interesting trips for a 2-week commitment. We'd fly to either the Philippines or Vietnam or Japan. And then there would every once in a while be a weird trip. Once we went to Bogota, Colombia. We delivered helicopters there. So turned out to be very positive. But what even turned out is I decided I made a lot of money before I got into the service driving a taxi cab in Hawaii. It was a lot of fun. So, and I smoked pot. I was very, wasn't too smart then. You shouldn't smoke and drive. But anyway, I made good money. So I says, well, gee, I think that would, because that's, you rent the car, you're a taxi driver, and you don't rent the car, you're not. So, and you always have a job. They always needed drivers. So I decided for a short wait to go back to Hawaii, and actually the Air Force let me fly with them on one of their Hickam turnarounds, and I flew there and stayed for the summer. And then when it was time to come back, I came back, and I forget how I made up for the weekend that we had to do. But anyway, it worked out. I was there for several months, and I had access to LSD then. Yeah, so yeah, so I was staying with a good friend of mine, and he was teaching basically daycare for retarded type children. Yeah, and so it was really sort of a one flew over the cuckoo's nest kind of a arrangement. And we were both, and he had epidemic encephalitis earlier, and then he had seen us shrink, and so when he would smoke, it didn't. I don't remember doing LSD, but we certainly had some occasions together smoking pot. Um, Okay, why do I have the Air Force here now? Back to Hawaii. I don't know what I wanted to say about the Air Force there. So maybe I did say it. We'll go on to the next one. Next. Oh yeah. Then the job comes up with Telemax, and I start out as doing installations of. We actually had computers. If I went into that, it would teletype and a stylus kind of Japanese thing to compose your message. Push the button, teletype only one message at a time. It was 55 baud, I think. So 55 characters a second. Anyway, it was so you could make reservations through the terminal and get a printed reservation. And it kept track of inventory, so you wouldn't overbook. And we had National Rent-A-Car and a lot of quality motels. They were actually called Quality Court Motels in the beginning. And we got a Marriott, and so we got a lot of chains, but there were chains in Hawaii. They wanted more exposure in Hawaii. So anyway, at first I was installing, but there weren't a lot of installations to do. So I got more involved in making sales representative calls to travel agents. We wanted to get travel agents to get one of these devices in, although we wanted them to pay for it, and they would generate the business for the hotels that we had. The business, this would be external business rather than just referral from Quality Motel to Quality Motel. So anyway, there were many trips back to Hawaii that I took on the business account. And stayed in a nice hotel, had a nice like Mustang convertible rent-a-car, and so this was cool. And several times I was back there for several weeks. So and I met some heads back there, and this is where. And it's not so much LSD now. Is I came across must have been at least an ounce of hash. Yeah, and they'd never seen or wasn't familiar with hash ever before. But these guys were heavily into drugs. They had a cool little place in Waikiki, and so I had my Mustang. They liked me, and I had all this money because I was on the expense account. So I would go there and do dope with them. I can't remember LSD experience, but I remember the hash, and I got a hash pipe. This hash was amazing, and this was my only time I ever had hash, but I had a lot of it, and a very small pipe, and I would actually take my fingernail, so I had this ounce, which was maybe this big, and you could just get a little bit off under your nail, and then that would just fit in this little hash pipe, and when you toke off on that thing, it would just glow all red, and then it would just totally turn into ash, and that smoke was so strong, right up there, and it all goes in your lungs. And one hit on that, and I'll tell you, it's hash is like I'd call it stony. I mean, you really get this feeling of being stoned, just overwhelmed, and just sit there. And anyway, but so that was another experience. Back to Hawaii. They're both with the Air Force and Telemax. In fact, there came an opportunity. They wanted a full-time person there, and so they actually were thinking. And if I would have accepted, I think they would have done it. But I was concerned that there wouldn't be enough work to do out there, and I wasn't really a sales kind of person. And these sales take place at a much higher level than me. So all it ended up going around to the same places over and over and just glad handing them and telling them the same thing, and they wouldn't give me any time. So Anyway, they got a University of Hawaii student and had him represent us part-time out there. So anyway, I didn't end up going to Hawaii, back to Hawaii. I ended up coming to New Jersey in '69. So yes, so 69, and I bought a Jaguar at the time, and actually had to wait for it to be delivered, and drove across the country. Oh, I had an LSD experience, and I stayed overnight in Las Vegas, and oh yeah, okay, this is must be later, yeah. Okay, yes, that's later, yeah. So I've many more memories here than I put down when I started thinking about it. There's much richer than I have outlined here. So let me get back. A very bad experience I had was, well, I didn't really have any access to LSD I knew of. And as I said, I wouldn't go. I did go to Sunset Strip one time, I remember, and picked up guys that were hitchhiking and asked for drugs. And I think I scored once. Yeah, I scored once with marijuana that way. But I didn't like doing it. So I had occasion to be in Tijuana. I don't remember whether I went down there to buy or not. I don't think so. But I remember I was standing on a corner and there were taxi drivers all around trying to hustle people for whatever. And so I told them I was interested in marijuana. And so we drove off, and he stopped, and I was in the car. So I gave him the money before I got the stuff, and he went in, and he came back, and gave me about an ounce, and I remember it was $20. And it was good stuff. And that was quite a supply for me. That lasted a good time. So that was the only connection I knew. But here's the bad thing. I decided one time that was a good thing, and I could buy more and a bigger buy. But I was worried about getting across the border. And I had this Spitfire sports car. It was very small, just two-person, and Triumph Spitfire. And I looked around where I could hide it, and where I decided was there was a plastic overflow for the radiator, and it never overflowed. So I figured I would put it inside that plastic thing because it, standard. So anyway, I drove all the way to Tijuana, and I went to the same place, different guy, I guess. And anyway, when you make a stop, for some reason I felt it was smarter to go in. And he basically just said, you go in here. And and it was basically, I'm sure, it looked like a little kind of courtyard of room. So I'm sure it was like where people, fucked. And so I told him I wanted to buy a kilo, I think it was. I think it was $45, yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember the quantity, yeah. I think it was a kilo or a pound, whatever. But anyway, so he had me wait in this bedroom, and he brings it back, and it's a bag about this big, but it's all bound up. And no, of course he wants the money then, and I have it down in my shoe. Surprise, surprise. And anyway, I want to see it though, and I have a real hard time opening it, and I finally rip it open, and it's not marijuana. So I says, no, this isn't marijuana. And second guy comes in, and they roll me back in the bed, and come to find out, well, stupid me, I had a ring on that my father had given me, meant to be a lifelong ring, because it was like his ring. They steal that. I knew that because I could feel them taking it off. And then my watch too. I didn't feel them take that, but they took my watch. And of course they found my money. And they just left me there with the stuff. So I was smart enough not to have my wallet with me. So ended up really being stupid driving all that way and getting rolled. So that's certainly a bad thing. And I wouldn't get close to Mexico today. Wow, that is just going. You don't need to hear that from me. So after the Air Force too, I had a motorcycle, yeah, and I remember it was a Honda Scrambler. I think it was a 305, Yeah, and I drove it to Las Vegas, and I'd never done. And that's not really a good bike, and it was sort of late in the season, so it was cold. And I remember I stayed at the Stardust, and I had LSD with me. But I wasn't stupid enough. I don't believe I drove my bike. I believe I walked. Yes, I even walked all the way from the Strip to downtown. So that's a big hike. I didn't want to take my bike, but I remember clearly enjoying very much when I took it. I got a reservation for what was the Folies Bergère at the Tropicana, I believe, and it was all this European entertainment. One was with black lights and caricatures, where the people are in black. That was very good because it was very visual. But one that was even more memorable to me under LSD was, I thought of another LSD experience here I'll tell you about too, was they had a projector film on a screen that wasn't a real large screen, maybe 10 by 10 or so. And but what the screen was just a bunch of slots, so people could run through it, and the characters would interact with the film almost perfectly. So if somebody is running towards you, when they finally got up to the screen, they would run through the screen, and it would go off the film, and then if it would fall back through the screen, it would go back onto the film. It just like magically appears. So it was done very artfully. So I remember that quite well. And before I forget, the other experience here that I didn't write down was, when I was working for Telemax, I was in Los Angeles, and I lived in Orange County, so that was quite a drive. So on the weekends, what I started doing was going up to Hollywood, as everybody else does, and there was this little bohemian theater down at the end of the Strip, and they showed these, and it wasn't a sex movies. It was a very small theater. It was all psychedelic movies. Like I remember there was Andy Warhol's Exploding Plastic Inevitables and stuff like that. And anyway, I would go, and I had a supply of acid. I don't remember where I got it. And I would drop some acid, and I would go in and watch and I remember very clearly at least one occasion where the films were all of these would be kaleidoscopes with the music. I even think it might be 16 millimeter. So it was just all visuals, very avant-garde. So that was another experience. But in totality, I don't think there were probably more than 30 LSD experiences. And on one occasion, I bought 3 capsules of what were supposed to be mescaline. And I think it was probably mescaline because it was like LSD, but it was a more mellow experience. And to jump forward to today, just recently, I had opportunity to take psilocybin, the mushroom. But unfortunately, I failed to launch. I was very cautious in the beginning because it looked like it just needed a very small amount. And I started taking more and more quantities, and by the time I started taking massive quantities, I was just about out. And when I started to feel something, I didn't get any visuals. It started to feel more like alcohol. So it wasn't a positive experience, but be that as may, let me get back to my list here. Then basically I went to moved to New Jersey in '69. And that was pretty much the end of my druggy days. I didn't have regular connections. I didn't, I worked, small circle of friends, busy most of the time. It started to leave my mind. Didn't seek it out. One time I did find someone with LSD, so I had a few LSD experiences. But that was the last. That was the last memory I have of LSD. Been trying to get some more recently, but I'm in the same case. Can't find it. My man only does marijuana, but he does very good stuff.